Hey, how's everybody doing today? Hope everyone's having an awesome day. I want to thank each and every one of you for all the wonderful comments and in the last video. And again, if I missed something or there's something you want me to go over, I'll be more than happy to do so. Or please feel free to send me a message. And if you have a question on the last video, we talked about uh, our routing and we talked about our panning. Uh, you know, getting our sub mixes together, getting our session ready to really what's the word I'm looking for? Just kind of like I think of it as making a soup. You don't put in vegetables that you bought from the store. You wash them off because dirt. Like say if you put a bunch of dirty vegetables in your soup, that dirt's gonna accumulate and it's gonna show up in your soup. That's why I took the time and I went back. And if you look here, I really cleaned up this session. As you can see, look at all these again attacks, releases, and there was the person that had this track before me that edited this track really didn't spend a lot of time doing it. And I can't stress this enough. Edit your tracks, folks, because it's a very crucial part of mixing. And as you can see here, look at, especially with all the horn parts, look at, I had to line a bunch of things up. I had to clean a bunch of things up. There were some parts I had to melodyne, and I'll go over that in another video. Some of the sax parts, there were some intonation issues, so I had to melodyne those. But again, I don't go crazy with effects because this is timeless music, meaning a big band is going to sound like a big band. It has to sound like it did, 30, 40, 50, 60 years ago. And, there's not much that it needs to happen as far as making a big band sound good, as long as you got a good recording, use good mics and good players. So I'm going to play a little bit of this for you. And again, this is with all the editing I did. I'll just do the intro. And, it's a huge difference than what we started off with. So, it made again, it's all the little things you do that, accumulate to really good decisions and really good things that happen. So, I know it's 3 a.m. in the morning here. So if you look at that, so that's normally when I do my stuff. I kind of operate late at night. So anyway, let's go to these drums. Now, you have to understand, what role the drums take. If you're, in a big band, drums are not, it's not like a rock band where the drums are just, all out. The drums, that hi hat. The lead trumpet player has to hear that hi. The 2 and 4. That ride cymbal, that kick drum, the snare doesn't have to pop. The snare just adds the accents to all the hits. So this doesn't have to be like a rock type thing. It's more subtle than that. There's more, I guess, finesse. So let's keep that in mind. So the first thing I always do is I, get my drums ready to go. And as you can see, I added some sub mixes. So these two tracks here are going to go to the sub kick mix, meaning that's getting routed to the drums. Meaning I'm going to do a lot of things. I'm just going to do a little bit here in this area right here, just clean up this, but I'm mostly going to EQ and compress the kick right here. And same thing with the snare. I'm going to clean up a little bit right here on each end of it, just a little bit, but the most of the processing is going to be done right here. And again, we're going to route that to the drum bus, create a snare. There we go. And then same thing with the overheads. Don't get crazy with this. Yeah, I see a lot of guys that over process, and it doesn't sound like a kit anymore. It doesn't sound like big band drums. Again, if you listen to big band drums, they're very organic. I think you got to keep the integrity of the first things I do on a drum mix is I check the phase of the drums, meaning are all the drums in phase. Now I'll explain what I mean in this right here. So give me a second here. This is what I mean. So let's look at a hit on the drums. Let's just take one of these like hits, like the big hit that you can see. Say like right here. Let me go ahead. So right there. Okay, so let's look at the hit. So let's look at the hit, and let's look at the wavelengths. So do you see right here where the the sound goes, the signal goes down, then goes up, then goes down, and then you have this here. That is the where the hat is, and then you have the tom, and then you can see it right here faintly on the floor tom, the snare top, the snare bottom, and the kick drum. And if you notice, they all hit things at certain times. Now, for the most part, these drums are in phase. If this was flipped, then the way you could tell is that the low end of the drums is lost. But I like to really align my drums and make sure that I have the punchiest set of drums I have before I do any processing. And there's different ways to do this, but I have found I'm all for maximizing your workflow and making it easier on yourself. So here's a handy little plugin that I highly suggest you check out. This is Auto Align by SoundRedX, and what it does, it takes a signal and it aligns other signals to it. So basically what I do is I put it on the crash mic. That's the microphone closest to the snare. And I'm going to send this signal to other tracks, meaning like, so right here. And so it's going to receive signal 1 because I assigned it. And signal 1 here. And then another signal 1 on the floor tom, on the high tom, on the snare top, and on the kick in. So I'll show you what I mean in a second. It's a really cool plugin, and it saves tons of time. So let's this is the overhead, and then let's just take a second and align my overhead. So here is my crash. Okay. Now we're going to go to the right cymbal and align it. Okay, cool. So as you can see, it aligned it, 7 samples. It was 7 samples off. And it just did the align. Now let's align the hi-hat. You can see it was 1 sample. I like to do it twice just to make sure everything's cool. See, it was 2 samples off. Now let's do the floor tom. right, let's try that again where our floor tom is playing a little bit more. Let's go here so I can get an accurate reading. Let's go right here where there's a lot of those hits. You see right here? And again, sometimes you gotta do it like, give it a good once over. Let's go ahead and loop this. Okay, so it gets an accurate reading. Okay, it looks like 65 is where it's at. And we're going to do the other tom, the high tom. Okay. All right, cool. So let's do the kick drum now. Okay, so what we're going to do is, since the kick drum is by the beater, we're going to send this one, another signal from the kick drum to the sub kick, so it can align, those two can align with each other. And so we're going to receive from signal 2. I don't know if you can hear this, folks, but there's a lot of punch going on. You know, there's a lot of... So let's go ahead and align this with the snare. Let's just start from right here. Okay. Now let's now, since these two mics are going into one sub mix again, we're gonna align these two mics together like so, and then so this is gonna be the third receive from signal 3. Now, I don't know if you can hear it, but I mean that's night and day. Let's kill the plugin. And you see how the bottoming came out, and you know you can hear the toms, the bottom end of the toms. I mean, it's that little thing that, like I keep saying, those little decisions, that little time you take getting all your drums in phase, that really makes a difference. Now let's go into processing it. Okay, so let's get started. Let's listen to this. Now, again, the role of the kick drum in a big band is to either kick the accents with the trombones, or a lot of times to actually give a little oomph for the any punch figures that the brass may have. So let's listen to this kick drum. That's not routed correctly. Let me route that correctly. So as you can hear, it's just really much the low end. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put a simple EQ here. And this is a sub kick. Now, any of you who know what a sub kick is, it's all it does is gets the really low frequencies of that kick drum. And all I'm going to do is take out the highs because I don't want any of that stuff in there. So let's listen to it. It's just to provide that little sub information. Did it clean it up? Let's check. Yeah. Okay. It's doing what it's supposed to do. Now for the kick, the kick that's inside the drum head. Again, I kind of do the same thing, and I listen to it, and let's just get some of the bad out, some of the bad out, and just accentuate the good. So let's listen. Let's get that nastiness out of there. Yeah. And then let's go ahead and just roll off a little bit of the top end. Just not a lot, just a little bit. Good. So again, it's just, we want that little punch, that little accent there. And then so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to just, me personally, I like to use the waves. I should be using stock plugins, but I really like using this 1176 on kick drum. And again, we're not going to go crazy with it. We're going to go with a medium attack and a medium release here, and then we're just going to kiss the compressor, not make it go crazy. Okay, cool. Now, as you can hear, we're hearing a little bit of the what you call it, we're hearing a little bit of the ride cymbal. It tells me that this was done in a very small room. Now, if you want, let's see if we do use a gate. Let's see if that helps a little bit. But again, thank you so much. I like using the Slate plugins. Slate plugins are for drums. They're kind of like my go-to. Well, let's hold on. All right, here we go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go just use a gate here. Get rid of all this stuff. I don't really need this stuff here. And this is a plugin I'm going to use too. So let's go ahead and use the gates here. There you go. So let's go ahead and use a gate. For those of you who haven't used a gate, I kind of like a tight kick. So let's listen to the... that's punchy. All right, cool. So I'm going to go ahead and move that up a little more. So let's listen to it in context with the rest of the mix, the rest of the drum sound. All right, now let's take off our enhancements and see if we did a good job or if it needs a little more work. Now with the to me that sounds pretty good. So from there, I go to the toms. Now the toms, you know, in a big band, they're just accents. They're just things that kind of, you know, accent a lot of the hits for the brass. So let's go where the toms are at. Let's go where we have our toms. Let's say right here. There's some tom. Okay. You hear that ring? That ring is not your friend. Get rid of it. That ring is not your friend. Okay. Okay, cool. And then I'm going to roll this off a little bit. 60. Turn that down. Okay. All right. Again, I'm not going to go crazy with this because these are just, in my opinion, again, this is just my opinion, these are accent type things, you know? And again, I just like to just, for musicality purposes, I guess, I like to just make sure that these things are controlled. So I will compress, like, yeah, just like maybe 1 or 2 dB, just to control those peaks. And then let's hear the high tom, and it sounds kind of dead, kind of, you know, kind of like, so let's hear that. Let's get rid of that. That's not our friend. Couple dB here. All right. Again, I'm making not crazy moves, but again, I do everything in increments of 3 or 4. So, and then let's go ahead and let's move that compressor over here. There's 3. Okay. All right. So let's see if we did a good job. Let's see. Yeah. As you can see, you hear that punch that we didn't have that before. Okay. So again, those are done. So, excuse me. Some engineers don't even EQ I mean, because I know a lot of drummers that are very, very, they spend a lot of time and a lot of effort, you know, tuning their toms, and they don't want engineers really messing with their sound. You know, that's another thing too. I'm very weary of, especially if I'm doing a small jazz combo record. A lot of times I won't EQ a lot of that. So let's go to our overheads and let's just clean these up. Again, there's not, you got a strong kick sound, you got a strong again, I just getting rid of the mud. So let's go ahead and roll these off to about 100, and then all right, so I'm hearing kind of a harsh cymbal sound. Again, let's get rid of that because that's not our friend. Okay, transfer that over. right, to me that sounds like see how it's accumulating. Let's get rid of that. Let's. You want to crisp right some. Okay. All right, now let's go to let's go here and let's just on second thought, let's get rid of this. Let's just do it globally. Let's just get rid of it all at once. Let's do it here. Start with an EQ again. I'm getting rid of all the garbage, getting rid of all the gunk, all the stuff that's not making my cymbals sound good. Because I want that nice, clean ride sound. Oh. Okay. Now let's go to the Slate plugins here again. I really like the Slate for drums. It's just kind of my go-to, but you could use any what you call it, any plugin will work. I like to use the overheads, and then again I take off the harshness. I kind of like to get rid of some of that. Maybe boost a little bit there, and then filter around 123, which I've already done. All right, so we really cleaned it up. Now let's listen to it. Oh, and let's do our hi-hat. The hi-hat, I really don't, unless it's like that that type of stuff, type of intro. There's none of that type of stuff here, so I'll just roll it off so it just doesn't muddy up the waters. All right, cool. So let's we have this here. Let's take off our enhancements. Excuse me. And let's see what we did here. Come on. Okay. Let's play this. All right, now let's listen to it with everything. All right. All right, so we definitely cleaned everything up. And some of you are asking, Joseph, what is this plugin right here? This is what they call a, for lack of a, it's kind of a saturation plugin. Sorry, and what it does, it gives it a little distortion and kind of gives you that little beef. That's basically what I use it for. All right, so let's look at our snare now. Our snare bottom. Now the snares on the bottom of the drum, Their only purpose is that shh. Now, if I was doing this was a ballad in the big band, the snare, the bottom, this would be higher than the actual top of the snare. So, you just want to give it that little, there's no bottom information here. Again, you don't really need the bottom part of that. So, again, I just roll that off to where, make sure this is routed. So, snare. There we go. There we go. Now let's again, I like to listen to everything in the context of the mix, as far as, the whole picture. All right, well, we're going to roll some of that bottom end off. And let's get rid of some of that. As you can see, that snare needs a lot of body. And normally with something like that, I would add actually an artificial snare sometimes to give it a little more oomph. But let's see what we can do first. Okay, cool. Now, again, we're going to mix these two. As you can see, the snare's kind of lifeless. And so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my trusty slate plugin here. And first of all, I'm going to gate all that. Now, again, we could go back if we really wanted to. And we could do the old trick, the scrub trick, and just scrub out all the other stuff. And like I did with these toms. But, that's not really, it's gonna, you're gonna do more harm than you are good. The snare is just an accent type thing. So let's just use the gate, judiciously. And then, because all we want to do is really clean things up. Again, get rid of the bad, accent the good. That's pretty much it. So, and we will be using that saturation plugin on the snare just to give it a little more, oomph. So let's tight. You see that clean for just doing that little move, cleaning everything up a whole lot. And so what we're going to do is let's compress a little bit, just a little. I like this distressor on my snare drum. So let's see. Again, we just kissed the compressor. Let's go. All right. So, and let's put the mix down a little bit, I mean, that thing's punching like, and I always like to use on snare drum. I always like to use these what you call it, these Neve. The Neve are just beautiful. And let's find out where that punch or that snare really needs the body. Let's add some top end. All right. Now, we're getting a little carried away with the volume. Let's bring that down and let's listen to it in the context of the mix here. Okay. All right, now that's a good sounding jazz drum kit. Now let's listen to it with the bass real quick. You see how the kick drum stays out of the way of that upright bass. That upright bass can walk. It's really a cool thing. And again, so sometimes you want a little more punch on your kick drum. Now this is what they call the New York compression trick, and basically it's parallel compression. So that's what that P drums is for right here. That's what we do. That's what we put this here for. And what you do is you send a full signal, and it doesn't matter if you have it panned, but you do that with the snare, you do that with the toms, and you don't do that with these you just the things that accent. And what you do is you pull up your favorite 1176 plugin. This is just a stock one, but look at the ratio. Pretty fast attack with the slow release, and and what you do is you just really just you just kind of just to taste, and watch what it does to your drums. So. Okay, so let's do it without the effects. You can hear. Now with. All right, so it's a subtle thing. Again, use this judiciously. Use this gingerly, as my mentor would say. Use it gingerly. Now you want to put the drums in a room. You want to put them in a space, and make your drums sound as big as possible. I have a setting here that it's just an ambient room with a really small size. About 85% here. Again, no pre-delay, like small pre-delay. And so what I do is I usually send my my kick. Some people don't do it, but I'll send my kick. And again, you want it. I'll send my kick. I'll send my snare, and I'll send my toms. Again, I really don't send because they'll muddy up the waters. But again, watch what happens. Again, do you hear that? It's a pretty big drum sound though. Let's listen to it in context, like with the upright bass. See how you can feel that kick drum? You can feel those toms. Now, what I like to do on the drum bus, meaning that I just again gingerly use. First of all, I will put some. I'll put some what you call it? I'll put a little bit of harmonic distortion on there. So again, let's listen to it. I mean, and then what I'll do is I'll grab an EQ, and then I'll just do like a drum, like just a little, like I'll boost the top end just a smidgen. I'll boost the if it needs it. Like I'll boost the the kick drum, and then around 400. Again, let's see. I can really feel that kick. And then what I'll do is I'll put in, lastly, I'll put in a compressor. I like to use a nice bus compressor on this, and the SSL is kind of my go-to. And so I'll just do that. I'll just put the SSL on there. And this is great for drums. And again, I'll just kiss the compressor. I won't do maybe 1 or 2 dB. So let's listen to this like in context with like the entire mix. Listen to our drums and how we really did we do too much? Did we do not enough? Again, drums are supposed to be punchy. You're supposed to hear the time. You're supposed to be nice and clean. Now, again, I mean, when you listen to that's the shout chorus. It's very clean. That's kind of the name of the game here. So that does it for our drum portion of this video. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask them, comment, what have you. Again, if you need me to explain something, or you need to ask why I did something or why I didn't do something, we can I'll be more than happy to discuss it with you. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next video.